So today I'm going to be analyzing a game that Lasker played, who was one of the world champions. This is a mortal game against Nelson Pillsbury. And here we get d4. Lasker goes for d5. And here Pillsbury plays the Queen's Gambit with c4. And Lasker just plays e6. Knight to c3, knight to f6. So pretty boring opening. Queen's Gambit declined. And here we get knight to f3. But here, Lasker switches it to a Tarash defense. I'm pretty sure the Tarash is this. Wait, after e6. I'm pretty sure this is the Tarash defense. Yeah, it is. But we get it to over here. This is just the 3-knight semi-Tarash. And here bishop to g5 is played. And usually when I see these positions, I see either bishop to e7 or some c takes, which is exactly what happens in the game. And here, Pillsbury goes for an interesting idea and takes to the queen. Queen takes d4. Now, you might just say, can't I just go knight to c6 here, coming in with tempo? Now, I'm pretty sure the normal move here is knight takes d4. But with queen takes d4, you just allow them to go here. What's the idea? Well, the idea is not to take over here and double some pawns. The idea is to go for queen to h4 and after bishop to e7, long castle. So as you can see, Pillsbury white has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces developed with the rook, with just that one queen maneuver over here. So it's a pretty interesting idea. Here we get queen to a5 with an idea to defend the pawn, maybe get out of the pin on the d file, and pretty much it. Completes some development. And here we get e3. Bishop to d7 is played. King to b1 is played to get the king to a safer spot. Because if it was on the c file, there would have been some breaks over here with b5. And here we get h6, which doesn't necessarily threaten the bishop because let's just play a waiting movie. If you take, then you actually just lose the game after queen takes. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a threat, but in the future it does allow for some tactics along this. Like maybe I could castle, maybe I could go long castle with tempo. And here, Pillsbury plays c takes d5, isolating the queenside pawn. E takes d5. And here, knight to d4 is played. And this is a typical way to play against an isolated queen's pawn or just an isolated pawn. Basically, you block it, and you never want to take here because then c takes, but you want to block the isolated pawn and then pressure it with maybe the bishop, maybe the queen. So here we get castles. Now the bishop is threatened. And here there are two options. Three actually, if you want to include this. Bishop to f4, which is apparently losing because of g5. Wait, not g5. But I mean, this just looks good. Let's see the lines here actually. There's bishop takes the sack is possible. And then like bishop to d3. Oh wow. It's a pretty nice line. But here we're with knight to e4. Takes. Wait, no, not takes. A bishop move? Oh yeah, I forgot about this. The queen. Yeah, and this is coming. Okay, makes sense. And here, bishop takes is wolves playing the game. If you try to go for the sacrifice, it is a blunder. Because first of all, I can just take. And even though the engine likes another move better, what happens here is the queen doesn't have enough pieces yet, so there's no attack yet. But knight to e4 is better because now after the queen moves, like let's say we're here, Now you can just take here and then take. And as you can see, it is the same position, but with a key difference. Now, we can take this pawn, or not. You can also just give a check. But, essentially, excuse me. We're just up a piece. We also have the open B file. So, excuse me. And instead we get bishop takes f6 with an idea to remove the defender of the d5 pawn here. Bishop takes f6 is played, and here we get queen to h5, and here knight takes d4 is played, and after e takes d4, bishop to e6. Let's pause and evaluate the position here. So pawn structure symmetrical, as you can see. B and A pawns, F G H for both sides, and then the two isolated pawns on the center on the D file. So pawn structure is symmetrical, but the reason why black is a little bit better is number one, there's just open C file they can use for their attacks. Number two, they have the bishop pair, but the bishop's being a little too passive right now. And because they both have an isolated pawn, the isolated pawn disadvantage kind of negates itself. So, here, Lasker's opponent goes for f4. Now the idea of f4 is simple. It tries to go to f5 and maybe g4. G4 comes in, h4, g5, and you're going to try to attack on the king side. So far we have an opposite side attack. And rook a8 is played, but this actually has a hidden threat. Because after f5, which is what was played in the game, f5. Now you can pause the video and think of what to play here. Now, bishop to d7 is fine. Well, with an idea to continue the attack here, maybe some b5 stuff in the future, and then b4, a6. But here, Lasker sacrifices the rook. Rook takes c3. What is the idea of this? There's two options. F takes e6, which is what is played in the game, and the better move. And being greedy and taking the exchange. This is just losing, because after queen takes c3 here, there's just too much threats. Like, already taking is a blunder because of queen to b4 check. And the white has three options. If you want to say this is a, I don't know, it's different, but it's not different. So if you go here, then the rook gets in the game and you're getting mated. Pretty simple. King to c2 is a better one, but still, you're getting mated after queen takes. This is just losing. And then you take here, king has to go somewhere, and then we just take. There's a lot of threats, and you're losing. Or you can go here and allow your pawn to be taken with check, and then you have to sack the exchange, takes, and here we can just take, and we actually have 3 pawns for our opponent's piece, but we have 2 connected, but one of those 3 pawns is 2 connected pass pawns, and 2 of those 3 pawns. And not only that, their king is pretty unsafe. I mean, rook to f2 is coming. What else? Or the rook can go to the c file maybe. So there's just a lot of threats in the position. Instead, we had f takes e6 here, the better move. And here, give me pause the video once again. So, if you've thought for a while, here Lasker sacrifices the rook. Once again, rook to a3, sacrificing the rook. Oh, what's the idea this time? What if pawn takes? Now queen to b6 comes in. And again, we have the same dilemma here. But there's actually a defensive move here. See if you can find it. Pause the video once again. If you guess correctly, it's bishop to b5. This is a good move here. Because, once again, if you remember, if the king went to a1, we just take here, and then take, and then we just have the same position as last time. right? But with bishop to b5, after takes, now they can go king to a1, and there's no bishop takes to d4 resource anymore. And this is actually a playable position. Well, I would say it's around equal after f takes. You can play this position where you have the bishop, you have the exchange, but their king is weak. They also have a terrible pawn structure over here on the queen side. And you're gonna try to play this position. But instead, after rook to a3, e takes f7 is already played. And as you can see, the engine does not like it. The better move is to play into this once again, and then play the bishop to b5 line. So, but instead, e takes f7 is played, which is a mistake. Because after rook takes f7, once again, if you take, which is exactly what happens in the game, queen to b6, and now bishop to b5 is played, queen takes, and now king to a1 here, and here Lasker plays rook to c7, and the engine does not like that. Reason being that after this, queen to c4 is better, and basically attack the pawn, and maybe rook to c7 in the future. You also have this check, winning that pawn, and you're just gonna win all of the pawns and win the game. Queen to g4, and then there's rook to e7 here, and there's nothing stopping this, because if you ever go here, we can simply just take and then take this, and we are completely in a winning position here. After king here, after king to b1, there's already some queen to d3 check. I don't know about this check though, queen to b5. Maybe it's worse, but so you get the point. There's an attack. But rook to c7 is played. And the idea of this move is to go to c4, attack the pawn, and maybe in the future, I don't know, maybe go to the a4 square, attack this pawn maybe. But after that, we get a rook to c4 here. And here, Pillsbury plays rook hd1, which is a mistake. Believe it or not. The most natural looking move ever is a mistake. Instead, rook to e1 was better. And when you're defending, there's also this thing called counterattacking. You can do that if you're ever under attack. It's a possibility. And essentially, there's two threats. First of all, the threat is to trade queens with queen to e8 check, forcing a queen trade. That's one threat. And the other threat is, let's just play a random waiting move. If we just have rook to e8 check, and wait, rook to e8, e6, and after this we have this check over here. No, apparently not. Oh, because of g6. Yeah. Okay. Alright, there's a difference. There's a wrong line. So, if something like bishop takes d4, now there's rook takes d4, rook takes, and then even check with the rook, and you're actually winning, because after king to h7, and there's just queen to g6, and you're getting mated. And after this, there's a couple of options here. If you go queen to a5 with an idea to attack these rooks, now there's just rook to e8 check once again, king to h7, and now queen to f5 check, but after g6, this is the line. Now, you have a very strong move here. Pause the video to find it. That is right. You sacrifice the rook. Rook to e7 check. Why? Because after bishop takes e7, we have a perpetual king to h8 is forced. Then here we go for queen to e8 check, and no matter where they go, we take the bishop with check, and then just perpetual. So, what are their other options after this? There's not any other options. So those are the two moves. Instead we get rook hd1 here, with an idea to defend the pawn. But this is actually a mistake. because Lasker here plays rook to c3 in the game. But here Lasker could have played queen to c6 here. And the threat is to win the game with rook to c1. And you can go king to b1. But then bishop to g5 comes in and you lose the rook, because if you ever move the rook, then we just win the game immediately with rook to c1 check and then take with the queen defended by the bishop. So the idea of this is basically to defend with the rook from the checks. So, and if king to b2, then queen to b6 comes in and we win the pawn. So that's pretty much the idea of queen to c6, to go here, hit the pawn maybe, and you're winning. But here, Lasker plays rook to c3 with an idea to maybe pressure this pawn, but here, queen to f5 is played. Now, the idea of queen to f5 is to give a check on e6 and then try to go for a perpetual. But here, queen to c4 is played, and suddenly white's better according to the engine if they find king to b1. King to b1 is the best move in this position, because if you start giving some checks, then rook to b2 comes in and white's actually better here. But instead, what happens in the game after queen to c4 is king to b2, which is a mistake. And here, you can pause the video once again to solve the puzzle. What is the best move in this position? So, if you're done here, Lasker played the brilliant move of rook takes a3. He sacrificed the rook. Rook takes e3. a3, sorry. a3. And the idea is that if you take, then now queen to c3 comes in, king to a4 is forced, and then b5 check, sacrificing a pawn. With an idea to go for queen to c4 check. This is the only move of the king. And believe it or not, bishop d8 is actually a checkmate. Nice. So that is the idea if you take. So you cannot take. So instead, white goes for queen to e6 check. And here, Lasker plays king to h7. What would have been better here, faster, is king to h8. And after queen to e8, there's no more checks after this move. But anyway, if white would have went here, then Lasker would have probably repeated the same position, but now would have found king to h8. But instead, after king to h7, Pillsbury took the rook, and once again, Lasker delivered a mate. And after bishop takes b6, Lasker wins the game. So there were definitely a lot of nice ideas in this game. Probably my favorite was by white with queen takes d4, with ideas of gaining a lot of development. And then, because we had an opposite side castling game, black just absolutely blew up the queen side with rook takes c3. And it's pretty much the end of the game. Bye.